Once there was a little girl who lived with her mother in a house at the edge of the forest. The little girl always wore a red cloak and a hood that grandmother had made for her. That's why everyone, even her mother, called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, Little Red Riding Hood's mother said to her,
"Grandmother's not feeling well. I have packed a basket with fruit, cakes, and honey. Will you take it to her?"
"Yes, mother."
"Be careful and don't go through the forest. Stay on the path, and don't play around along the way. Grandmother is waiting for you."
"Yes, mother." Little Red Riding Hood took the basket and was on her way to grandmother's house. Little Red Riding Hood came up to a road where the path continued, but a different trail headed off into the forest. All of a sudden, a great wolf stepped out from behind a tree.
"Good morning, Little Red Riding Hood. Where are you going on this fine day?"
"I am going to see grandmother on the other side of the forest. She is ill, and I am bringing her fruit, cakes, and honey."
"Why don't you take the shortcut path through the forest? It is much faster that way. Then you can see grandmother quicker, and the food will be fresher."
"I cannot stop. Mother said I must not stray from the path and go into the forest. It is not safe."
"Going to the forest is safe, and it is faster. Besides, you do not want your food to not be fresh now, do you?"
"Perhaps you are right." So Little Red Riding Hood headed off into the forest. However, the wolf was lying to her about the forest being shorter, as it actually took longer. The wolf then quickly ran down the path towards grandmother's cottage. When he came to grandmother's cottage, he crept up to the door and knocked. "Who is it?"
"It is I, Little Red Riding Hood. I have brought you fruit, cakes, and honey."
"Come in, dear. The door is open." As soon as the wolf was inside, he ran over to the bed and gobbled up grandmother whole, leaving only her blanket and a nightcap. He put on the nightcap and wrapped himself in the blanket. Then he crawled into bed to wait for Little Red Riding Hood. Before long, there was a knock at the door.
"Who is it?"
"It is I, Little Red Riding Hood. I have brought you fruit, cakes, and honey to cheer you."
"Come in, dear. The door is open."
Little Red Riding Hood went in and stood for a moment in the doorway. "Oh, grandmother, what big ears you have!"
"The better to hear you with, my dear. Come closer."
Little Red Riding Hood walked closer to the bed. "Oh, grandmother, what big eyes you have!"
"They're better to see you with, my dear. Come closer."
Little Red Riding Hood walked even closer to the bed. "Oh, grandmother, what big teeth you have!"
"The better to eat you with."
The wolf grabbed for Little Red Riding Hood, and Little Red Riding Hood screamed with all her might. Now it happened that King Arthur was passing grandmother's cottage just then on his way to a meeting with the Knights of the Round Table. He heard Little Red Riding Hood scream and came running into the cottage. When he saw the wolf trying to get Little Red Riding Hood, he knew he had to act fast. He quickly charged at the wolf and cut him in half with his magnificent sword, called Excalibur. The wolf fell to the floor, stone dead. All of a sudden, grandmother popped out of one of the halves of the dead wolf, safe and whole, just as the wolf had swallowed her, except she was missing her right arm. "Oh, grandmother, how happy I am to see you!" "And I am happy to see you too, child." Grandmother gave Little Red Riding Hood a big hug. Then Little Red Riding Hood, grandmother, and King Arthur gathered around to feast on fruit, cakes, and honey that Little Red Riding Hood had brought. They all lived happily from that day on, never to be troubled by the wicked wolf again.